Hey everyone, Idaho here. So I had a discussion on the Sim subreddit the other day in response to my Akutan Zero video. In that video, I'd stated my belief that the Zeros in War Thunder are overperforming because separating from them is more difficult than it should be based on historical accounts. For example, in pretty much every contemporary test against the Zero, they recommend the same tactic. If you find yourself with a Zero on your 6, I'll quote, roll and dive away into a high-speed turn. This suggests that if you have a Zero on your 6 at roughly equal energy states, you should be able to get free of it. But it really doesn't work like that in War Thunder. The Zero can follow you into a dive. It can maintain enough controllability in a dive condition to pepper you. And it doesn't matter if you try to turn or if you try to extend, you're going to be in gun range for too long. Now, an allied aircraft that should be able to separate like the Hellcat, it's just really hard to avoid damage if you don't start with more energy than the Zero in the first place. And of course, once you're damaged, drag is going to slow you down and allow the Zero to close in and close the deal in most cases. There's also this 1943 document that details testing of an A6M20 versus an Allison engine P40. And it says that the P40 should be able to separate from a Zero without even diving, just by proceeding away from the Zero on initial pass, until it had enough clearance to turn back in and make another head-on. In this Reddit discussion, I said that I believed in War Thunder the Zero would be able to just turn around and hit the P40 before it got out of range. My interlocutor didn't believe that, so I tested it. I set my Mac up to run my old PSN account, got the Allison P40, had it fly straight ahead. Then I got in an American A6M2 and tested what happened. First, I had both aircraft full mill, then I did a couple tests running both on WEP. And in each case, the P40 is unable to separate. The Zero either destroys it or causes damage and is able to close it and destroy it later. Now, looking back at this video, I guess you could argue that the P40 spawned in with its nose slightly offset, which gave the Zero a little bit of turning room at the merge. They weren't going in a knife head-on pass. And it's possible that if they did a more full head-on, the Zero might bleed more speed when it turns around. But I don't think even then that the P40 would get out of range entirely before the Zero gets a shot. I think the window for the Zero might be smaller. The P40 could well escape if the Zero misses that initial shot. But it's still going to be in a danger zone, and I don't really think that's what the document is describing. But you know what? All this is fairly immaterial. Even if the Zero were accurate in War Thunder, I still wouldn't think it should be included in 90% of the rooms, purely for balance reasons. I mean, think about it this way. Everybody knows you don't dogfight a Zero, right? You hit and run. So if you say Zeros are OP in a dogfight, people will just say, you're doing it wrong. You're not supposed to dogfight a Zero. But it's not like I ever choose to dogfight a Zero. It happens because I'm trying to dogfight other people, and with my energy low, because I'm in some very fun dogfight with 109s or Yaks or whatever, some opportunistic Zero shows up on my 6 and latches on and follows me around like a baby duck and gets a kill that he didn't have to work for or actually earn. So with Zeros in a room, really the only correct thing to do, the only way someone can't accuse you of just doing it wrong, is to take out a fast aircraft and never get slow. And I can do that. I have another video showing a 30-to-1 kill-to-death ratio in a Thunderbolt when I did precisely that. And a lot of those kills were against Japs, and my 2 deaths were against bomber mouse scanners, not Japs. So yeah, that works. But it's boring. It's not what I play War Thunder for. I play War Thunder for the knife fight. I play it for the neutral merge or to start defensive and turn the tables. So I could choose to fly pure hit and run and be bored. Or I could choose to just quit playing War Thunder. Or I could choose to fly the way I want to and hope for the best. And that's what I do, but it does mean that it allows a lot of Zero or A7M pilots to get kills on me. And what bothers me isn't that they kill me. Like, that doesn't bother me. I get killed by 190s in that situation. It's that they so often ruin a good fight with a better pilot who's flying a more balanced plane. And they do it without effort because they just happen to catch me at a low energy state. And I say this as someone who's not only been on the receiving end of that, but also the guy in the Zero dishing it out. Being the guy in the Zero is almost worse because I just feel so stupid getting easy kills in the middle of a furball when I know the opponent has no recourse. There's nothing he can do to stop me. If I catch a pilot at a similar or lower energy state to me and I'm flying a Zero, the only way he's going to survive the encounter is if somebody else kills me first or if I run out of ammo. Otherwise, I'm going to kill him. There's just nothing he can do to stop me. And I mean, if a Zero pilot finds an enemy plane at a similar or lower energy state to him, there's 2 possibilities for why he's there. He could be a newer pilot and not so experienced in sim. He doesn't realize he should always have altitude or airspeed if there are Japanese planes in the room. Or he could be there because he was just fighting somebody else, or he's currently fighting somebody else, and he's bled all his energy. And in either case, there's no satisfaction in beating up on that guy. And I know that if I kill him, it's not because of my skill, it's because I'm flying a plane that's dominant in the situation that that poor enemy pilot had the misfortune to find himself in. Now, I actually do think, and this is what ruffles people's feathers, I really do think that many, not all, but many, pilots who fly Japan exclusively or most of the time, do it because they don't actually have the ability to get kills in a more balanced aircraft. I mean, not to single anybody out, but look at the Zero pilot. I took up a Buffalo in a Tier 3 match that was overrun with jabs. The Buffalo is not equal to the Zero, and a good pilot in a Zero will quickly destroy Buffalo. But since the Buffalo is lighter than most other Allied aircraft, against a poor pilot, you can at least make the fight interesting. Sometimes you can even win. More often, you can stay alive long enough that maybe a teammate can come along and pick the Zero off for you. And that's what happens here. Now that pilot was so frustrated he quit. He was flying for the easy kills, and the fact that a teammate came in and helped me was just unfair to him. Again, I'm not saying all Zero pilots are like this, and I don't think Japan should be entirely removed from the game. I just think they should be moved back to a few rooms reserved specifically for them, the way it used to be. Then, as it was historically, anybody facing them would know they're facing only Japan, and they would need to use tactics to match, so they would need to fly pure hit and run the whole match. And it would be their own fault if they got into a situation when they didn't have more energy than the Jap planes. Now, I wouldn't go into that room, because I don't like to play exclusively hit and run, any more than I like to exclusively fly dominant tourney birds. But there are a lot of people who like both those playstyles, so why don't we just put them together and let them have at it? Oh, and one more thing. Zero pilots, A7M pilots. Don't brag. Don't brag about how many kills you have. Don't brag about how good you are. Look, you're not fooling anybody. I mean, if I see a pilot on the scoreboard with 7 kills and 1 death, and I see from the kill feed that he's flying 109, I'm going to be like, wow, that's a great pilot. And I'm going to go look for him because I know that when I find him, I'm going to have a great fight. But if I see that he's flying a 0 or an A7M, I just roll my eyes. I mean, seriously, you're not fooling anybody. Except maybe yourself.